all, welcome to Microsoft Student Developer Day. This is the second edition, and I'm pretty happy to do this, in a hybrid mode, because last time when we did it, it was completely online, and as of now, it is like it's fun. I'm able to see you guys, I'm able to meet you guys. I can talk to you all. Rashmita, if you can bring up the code of conduct. I hope Rashmita can hear you. I hope Rashmita, you there? But okay, perfect. Cool. So please go through this code of conduct. This event is governed by the code of conduct. Be careful, while you're speaking, and be aware of others. It's make sure that you are taking care of others. You don't just boom into the chat and talk something which will hurt others. Okay, just spend some time. Like I'll give you some 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Just go through the slide. There's a bunch of things which is there. And first up, I just want to say invite Tina and Ankit. I know this is a bunch of sessions which is going to happen today. If time permits, the last session. Otherwise, we'll have 3 sessions for sure. 3 deep dive tech sessions which is going to happen. So Aniket and Tina are going to talk about platforms. And then we have functions, Azure functions and other things, which is coming up from Rohit and Arpita. And we have Vidushi and Jasleen talking about what? R, data visualization with R. Okay, that's something which I also want to learn. So cool. So there are a bunch of things which is happening. So let's go ahead and take this up. So I just invite Tina to come here and take it up. So you just need to share it. Share. Yeah.
Rashmita, could you please confirm if...
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? Weekend ahead? No excitement? Yes? Okay, so today we are here to... today we are here to give a session on build an app without using any code with Microsoft Power Platform. So before starting, just one question. So anyone here app developer, web developer, anyone? Or students who are working?
Okay, so we have
a bunch of them. Okay, awesome. So have you wondered, especially you and everyone here, have you wondered if you could create an app without using code? Without using any code?
like you all are app developers who are into app development. You know how much you need to code. You need to write bunch of files so that you can make an APK and then you can run an app, right? It takes a whole lot of time. But what if we tell you that there is a way you can build an app from scratch, that in a single day, and it will be almost similar or would be same like the app you have built, just using the actual code, maybe some Flutter or Kotlin, right? So we have those kind of things.
Yeah. So what Microsoft Power Platform does is it helps organizations build apps using with the help of productivity. So the main goal here is to be productive, right? At the end, you keep solving a problem and then you get to know there was no problem at all, right? So the main goal is to be productive, time consuming and efficient. So here we are with the session. So introducing myself, my name is Tina Popley, and I'm currently pursuing Information Science and Engineering from Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bangalore.
And hey folks, I'm Aniket Kumar Sana. I'm the cloud intern at Rapid Circle, and I'm also the Gold Microsoft Non-Student Ambassador.
Okay. So Power Platform. Power Platform is a combination of 4 of these tools. Anyone who can identify these tools? Power BI, Automate. Yeah, Power BI, Power Apps. One more. Automate done. Power Automate, yeah, done. One more. Sorry? Yeah, it is related to chatbots. So, okay, I'll go one by one.
Just hold on 1 second. Yes, need to be here.
Okay. Okay, so starting off with first one, yellow one, Power BI. So it's an interface for business analytics. So you have data, you want to put that data into statistics, into data reports, right? Power BI is for that. So you visualize your data in the form of reports, analysis, charts, etc. Aniket will show you a hands-on on how Power BI Studio looks like. And someone said chatbot. So that is the Power Virtual Agent. So as the name suggests, virtual agents, you can create AI chatbots. I think many of you are into AI as well. So whether your organization needs to create a bot for simple conversations or something like complex conversations, that means simple conversations, what do I mean here is you have certain questions. For example, just a basic example, hi, hello, right? What could be the response for that? Hi, hello, how are you? What are you doing? Where are you? Etc. Right? So that comes under simple conversation. Then comes our complex conversation. So all this comes under our virtual agent, which he mentioned. Next comes our Power Automate. So Power Automate is to just automate things, right? As the name suggests, just automation. Let me give one simple example for this. So we have Twitter. All of you are aware of Twitter. So, for example, I create a keyword, let's say Microsoft Reactor, right? So any tweet with the use of the keyword Microsoft Reactor will trigger a notification to my email, right? So Power Automate does that. So any news, any tweet based on use of Power Reactor keyword gives me an email notification. So that is done by our Power Automate. Power Apps is what we're going to focus on. So I'll take it a little while later. Before that, Aniket is here to show you how these interfaces looks like.
Is better now?
Now speak.
Can you hear us?
You have to mute. Volume 0. Now you speak.
Am I audible to the online folks?
Yeah, it's muted.
Is it fine now? Is it fine now? Am I audible?
Now speak.
Am I audible? No. Let me. I have to change.
Yeah, now.
No, it's very close. Just remove yours.
Yeah. Am I audible right now? I think I am. Yeah.
No?
Fine. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Resharing my screen.
People who have joined in person, sorry folks.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into Power BI first. So this is the link, as you can see. Okay. And when you will tap on sign in, or you may have to create one, like your account, so it will lead you to this interface, right? And let me just show you one of the recommended examples or templates available here right now. So I'm opening this Kansas statistics. So let's see what all it is representing in Power BI and how we are using this. Achha. Thank you for informing. Okay, so it's coming up. So you can see that this is a kind of interface which we are getting from Power BI. So basically we use Power BI for getting the analysis paths. Like I have seen many companies, and like I have my own experience because I am working right now. So there are many companies who are using this Power BI to get the statistics of their company so that they can use it for their marketing purpose, or maybe some kind of production purpose, or to understand what exactly their customers are wanting from them, right? So if we are tapping on anything, right, so you can see that the stats are changing here. So this is the interface of Power BI. So you can, like, you need to add the things, get the data, and you can analyze it. Any lame person can use it to understand what exactly the stats are, right? Next, let's go to Power Virtual Agents. So this is the interface, and the website is powervirtualagents.microsoft.com. Okay. So I guess that Power Virtual Agents is quite understandable to you, that it is virtual agents, so you can talk with them, right? So if I am writing hi here, so these are all automated or set kind of things. So like, let me show you. When I'm tapping hi, the other person or the virtual agent is introducing itself, right? So let me show you how this is working. If I'm clicking on this message, so you can see that something is coming up. And this is the thing, like there are some trigger phrases. So if you are writing any of these letters or words, then you will get this kind of reply, and this is the flow. So this is how you need to create a whole flow in Power Virtual Agents. For example, if you want to build a chatbot for your company, and maybe it is selling something, or you have multiple stores, right? So you can set it like, if someone is saying hi, hello, then you can greet them and can lead them to the locations where your stores are, or maybe lead them to your product so that they can click on it and buy it. Like we all have used these kind of chatbots on different sites, right? So these are the things. So you can directly create a simple chatbot here without any hassle, and then just use it in your websites or apps if you need it. Okay. And here comes the Power Automate. So the link is powerautomate.microsoft.com. And when we are signing in, so this kind of interface is coming up. So Power Automate is basically, as Tina said, that we have multiple templates also present here. So these works on basically triggering happenings. Okay. So for example, as she mentioned an example, if any tweet is coming up with some kind of specific keyword, right? So you may be also getting a mail. So you must have heard that some kind of tweets got banned or something like that, right? So these are like, you can use these things to understand. Or maybe some kind of companies can use it to understand that what all their customers are tweeting about them, right? So we have bunch of flows, like we can use Outlook, we can use Twitter, Power BI. So you can just check out the whole available templates, and you can also use ones. For example, if you are conducting an event, right? So you can attach that maybe Excel sheet to this Power Automate, and you can just set a timing. At that exact timing, Power Automate will automatically send those mail to every attendees. Okay. And in Power Automate, there's also a thing that there's an option for the approval. So you can set the flow in such a way that if anything is happening, for example, you need to send the mail. So this thing happens, you get a mail for approval. If you approve that thing, then the mail will go to the concerned person, right? So these are the things how Power Automate works. But today we will be focusing more on Power Apps because we are here to build the Power Apps. Okay, we are here to build the app without using any code, and we will be building 2 apps, and we will be showing how you can also build it.
Do one thing, do your part.
You just show it.
No, do your part.
You show it in your part.
No, don't switch.
No, change connect.
Acha.
You do your part.
Acha, okay. Okay, so I am showing you I will be helping you in creating an app. If anyone are having any systems, then maybe they can just go it hands on. Okay. So you have to go to make.powerapps.com. Okay. So you are having systems. Okay. Some are having the systems. They try to hands on.
Don't try so.
Okay. Okay. So let me go ahead with the things till you are opening.
No, it's okay.
If
you can watch the recording.
You can watch or you can catch up if you want. So we have multiple options. Like we can start directly with data, or we can create an app from blank, right? So first of all, I'm going using a blank app. So while tapping on blank app, they will be asking us for some kind of option. So we are using blank canvas app right now. So let's just tap on create it. So we have options, tablet or phone. So in Power Apps, we have 2 kind of options. So if we want to create a tablet interface app, so we can use tablet. If we want to go for phone app, then we are going for phone. So I am presently using the phone app. So this time we will be checking that how we are going to create an app that can scan any business card. Okay, so you can scan it and get the details out of those business cards. So I'm naming this app as Business Card Reader. Then tap on create. It is coming. Okay, so this kind of interface you are getting, you can just skip it for now. Okay, so this is the canvas, right? So this is the interface of your app which you will be building. So it is right now totally blank, right? So now, what's our aim? We want to build the business card reader. So there's a special feature in this Power Apps, like when you go to insert and go to AI builder. Okay, so these are some pre-built AI builders. So we have business card reader, which we will be using right now. We have receipt processor. So this can be used to analyze any receipt which you get from any kind of shop, right? We have form processor. We have object detector, like you can detect some object, and we have text recognizer. So we will be using this business card reader. Okay, so it's up there. So we are just adding it, like resizing it. Okay, so as you can see, it is asking for scan business card, right? So from here we can either scan it, or I can like upload it. Like we are using laptop now, right? So we cannot use the cameras and use it, right? But we can upload it, the already downloaded business card, if we have. Okay. So now the thing is that what are the things you can get in business card? Any options, like what are details there in the business card? Name, contact, right? Address, email. Okay, so let's start with few things. Let's start with name. So first we have name. Okay, then we have maybe email. then we have a phone number maybe. Okay, let's go with 3 right now, but we can add more. These are all labels. So while we are scanning, so these are labels. So we cannot get any updates here. So these are just labels. They are just the headings. We need also some insert option, right? So then we will add input option. Okay, and we will add text input, because when we are scanning something, it will fetch the details and will be printing, right? And we can use multiple business card to access it. So we are using the text input and put it one under name, one under email, and one under the phone. Okay. So now the thing is that, okay, we are done with the interface, right? This is a basic kind of interface. You can design it more. So now the thing is that how to get this details from the card scan, right? So there are some formulas, a basic formulas. So you can see that card name, that the standard name is business card reader 1. Okay, so we will be using this to fetch the details from those cards. So tapping on the first text input, here is the function, like you can see fx. So like you all know that fx is similar to function, right? So we will be just updating it. Business card reader 1, the name of that AI builder. You can see that it is showing that it has some option. Click on it, then dot. Okay, so now you see that there are multiple options. You can get address city from that, address country, region, postal code, like there are bunch of things. Okay, so first we want to go full name. We are choosing full name from here. Okay, so see, this isn't giving error right now. Like previously it was showing some X kind of things, right? It was not complete. So now it is full. So this, the name which is on this card reader, you can edit it and then dot, and then here we have option of full name. You can also get 2 options like first name and last name. Like as in when you want, you can just choose accordingly. For email, we go the similar way. And dot, we have email here. Okay, and for the phone, the similar process. And then the search for phone. So we have business phone. Okay, so we are done with the things. Now how to test it, right? So you have this play button here. So this play button is basically to use that how your app is working. So just tap on this play button, you will be getting the face. So this is the place where you can just use your Power App to check it. So tap on scan business app, business card, and I have one card here. Let me open it. Okay, so this is the card. And it is scanning and getting the details. Okay, so you can see that. Just let me open that card also. So you can see that the name of the person is Everett Smith, right? And here also we are getting the same name, right? So it has fetched the name. We are getting the email and we are getting phone number. You can just see that you can scan any card, and even if you want to use this app with your any card right now you are having, like maybe you can scan this card also to get the details from this, like whatever, like this card is having just the name, right? So you will be getting your name. So if any card is not having any kind of email address, or if it's not having any kind of phone number, then you won't be getting it because it's obviously it is there, right? So this is how you can use this app to scan it. I know like you won't be using this because you will be using the card data, like, but some companies it is like needed to scan the things and get the details, right? So this is how you can build this AI builder. Like you'll build this card reader using the AI builder, and you have further options too. Like you can just use these things to, like you can just experience and try out few other things to understand how you are getting things. Maybe you can use receipt processor and scan any receipt to use it. Okay, and Tina will share more on how you can share this app, right? Because see, if we are just using the app on the system, on the laptop, then it's of no use, right? We need app, we need to use it on our phone, right? So we can also do that. Is just we have some things. So Tina will be sharing more on that, how you can share the app. Is like, let me share a small thing that it's basically on organization, right? So MS365 is basically the subscription of an organization, right? So if you are a part of that organization, you can share your app with all the other folks in that same organization, and all the other folks you can use it, right? So Tina, maybe you can. Okay.
I'm audible, right?
Yeah, this one you have to put it there. Yeah, this
Yeah, that's there. That is my. I'm audible. Am I audible? So continuing to what Aniket mentioned, so what I'm going to show you is you have data. Let's say we have these data in an Excel sheet. How do we fetch these details into an app, right? So one important thing before I go is, although it is already in a table, so before doing that, you need to make sure that these are a part of a table. So select them, click on Format as Table, and select your desired design. Okay, any design. And you can also see what's the table's name. I'll say what's the importance of table name. So this is clear. I'll go ahead. So once this is done, I come back to my Power Apps, right? So this is your Power App Studio, where you can create a number of apps with the use of these templates and customized versions. So I go to Create. I go to More Data Sources. And I have already uploaded this Excel sheet into my OneDrive. So what important factor you have to remember is this Excel sheet should be in a form of your OneDrive or SharePoint. So I'll select my OneDrive as I've uploaded it here. And the name of this is Flooring Estimates. So I go to Flooring Estimates here. I click on Flooring Estimates. And my table name was Flooring Estimates as well. So I click on my table name. So this is the importance of table. If you haven't created a table, nothing will show here. You keep wondering, what do I select here, right? No data is being fetched to an app. So after my data is created, I select the table, connect it. You see the word Power App? I'm not doing anything here. Automatically, my app is going to be created now.
So this is basically, we are creating an app using an already present data. Okay, and here the data which we are using is basically an Excel sheet, right? So we have maybe we need to get some data in an app, like we need to, for example, you are shopping on the cart, right? So you need to get the list of the items there, right? So we are having that Excel sheet as our data, and we were using that Excel sheet as a data to this app, right? And we are fetching all the details from that Excel sheet in this very app, and we will show that how to edit or add new things in this.
You can see, I'll show you the Excel sheet. So the first column was name, and second was category, under which comes carpet. So let's go back to our app, and we see that carpet is here. And what if I click on this arrow? It's saying me to edit, right? So this is your studio where you can edit and customize based on your requirements. So what is the one thing you can do is, either you can go and play it from here, if you're able to see, or press Alt and click on the arrow. It takes me to the details of this particular record, right? So let's say, so Alt back. Let's say I want to create another record. So Alt plus, and
Open that
No, I'll open the app and show.
one.
Okay, let me go to the app. I create another record. Let's say, just something random, and I click. So you can see this record is created here. Software Tina Hayes. So if I click here, all my details are being fetched here. So this is how you can create an app with the help of Excel. So one last thing I can show you here is, okay, let's say you want to create your own navigation. So here what's happening is if you're clicking on this arrow, it's navigating you to its details, correct? So it's navigating us to the carpet's details. Let's say I want to create another navigation. Okay. So I go to insert. Let me create an icon, let's say. Okay, let's create a smiley and put it here. So this is my icon now. I can change the color here in properties. Now, how do we, so let me go and play. Is anything happening? No, right? Why? Because I haven't added a navigation. So let me go back. Okay. Go to my action, navigate. So these are all, so if you see the tree view here, you have many views and screens here, right? So for example, I click on browse screen 1. This main screen is our browse screen 1. Let me go to icon 1. This is my icon 1, the smiley one. So on, you have different versions of screens and icons, right? So before I navigate, I need to navigate to a particular screen, right? So let me create a new screen instead. Back, insert, new screen, blank. Now you see screen 1 is created. I hope it's visible. Going back to my navigation. So action, navigate, screen 1, right? So let me put something in screen 1. Text. Always be happy. So similarly, I can also add an image here, media and image. Now, let us go back to our main screen, which is browse screen 1. Go to the smiley, action, navigate, screen 1 is done. You see, I'll show you it there. So let me come back to my main screen, browse screen 1 and play the app. So this is my main screen. The added icon is visible. Let me click on the smiley and you see the new screen here. All cool? So this is just the basic version as we are introducing you to what Power Platform or Power Apps is and how you can create apps without the use of code. So this uses low code, no code approach. So today I was just having a talk with Mr. Deepak as well, and he mentioned that he started coding with the use of Notepad. So in those days, there were no IDEs, nothing. And once the IDEs were created, once the Power Platform came into picture, he says that, wow, what a technology, right? And also including one thing we missed out initially, that this is useful more into non-technical side as well, right? So he also mentioned about finance. So for example, a bank requires to make an app within no time, right? They have an Excel sheet. For example, taking today's session, they have an Excel sheet with data. They need to create an app. So no need to hire a person to create that particular app in that situation, right? You have Power Platform, you have the technology, and everything is in your hands. So this is why we also wanted to cover this session today, as low-code, no-code technology is also one of the field where you all could make use of in your real-time scenarios. He also mentioned about his.
Let me just share one thing. Can you mute yourself? So the thing is that like I'm interning right now. So my company planned a trip. Okay. So someone from the company created a power app in a single day, and the app was containing every detail for the trip. For example, from where you can start your journey, what all we will be having at the resort, and what are the how you can get those things if there is some kind of extra cost or something. Everything was mentioned, and that, like, you can understand, a tour kind of app was built for the specific company, and that too in a single day. And if you want to, like, think that what is the scope in future about this, right? Like, can you make a career on this or not? So I can assure that many company hires on Power Platform developers, Power Apps developers. Okay, so you can be sure, if you are into low code, no code, you should definitely learn this, because there are many opportunities open. You just need to search, because we are in this era that we are having jobs or professions for each and everything we are having in this world. Like, you can make a career in specifically Power Apps also. You can make a career in Power Virtual Agents also. So you can choose it. And one thing was left, that how to publish it, right? To how to share it with the folks in your company. So let me just show you once.
So you need to also install Power Apps on your mobile phones.
Let me just show you. Okay. So this is the app which we built, right? This was the business card reader. So now go to files, and here you need to save as. So we have already having the name. You can just tap on the save button. So it is saving it. Okay. Saving to the Power Apps. Okay, yeah. So now you can see that it has saved, and it has versions also. Okay, so if you want, you can change, update the app and change the version, right? Now we want to share it with the other folks. So I'm tapping on share. It is open interface. It's coming up. Okay, now you can see that I am the owner. So I am into this MS365 account, like the student ambassadors, right? So I can share this app with anyone or everyone in this specific organization. So for example, I can share the app with Tina, right? Tina. I can add as user. I can add anyone else as user in this, and the other person can also use. And now you can see that all emails, right? So if I add this, like all emails, so it will be sending a mail to each and every person having this student ambassador's ID, the email, that, hey, this person has created this app. If you want to use it, they can use it from your system, right? And then tap on the share button. So it will be shared. If I need to show it, like how you can use it on phone, so I'm just going through the camera here.
So same goes for our Excel data also.
Yeah. So basically, let me show you from here if this is visible, right? Yeah. So you can see that there's a Power App, right? So you can just open it, like I have opened it. So this kind of interface will come up. Okay. So you can see that I have this try card reader. So we were just trying this. Okay. So I'm just opening it. So it is opening up as an app in this phone. It is coming up. Okay. So now you can that, yes, we are having app, and you can just use it. Like I'm tapping on the scan app. It is asking me.
Has a visiting card, you can try.
Yeah, if you want to try, you can try. So you can asking. It is asking that if you want to upload already saved image, or if I want to click a picture. So if I will click a picture using this, so it will just scan it and get the details. Same way as we tried on the laptop, right? Okay. So this was the thing that how you can use it. Yeah. So this was the thing that how you can use this very app that you have created in no time into your app, and you can share it with your other folks in your organization. Okay. Yeah. So we have. Sharing. Okay. So we have a small quiz kind of thing. It's few questions. Okay. So Tina, would you like to go for the questions?
Yeah, so question 1. Your project requirements call for the ability to take a picture of a part and identify which model it is. You aren't a data scientist or developer. How can you add this to your app? So option A is train and use an object detection model in your app with AI Builder. Option B, this is not possible. Option C, add a camera control to your app. A.
Okay, so let's see.
Let's see. Correct.
You are not right. Any? Okay, so the next question is.
After question, give 5 minutes.
Okay. So the next question is, how can data sources be used with Power Apps, Canvas apps? So like we created some things, right? We created few apps. So there are a few options like Power Apps can only use as internal data sources. Power Apps uses only external data sources and doesn't have an internal data source. Power Apps can use multiple internal and external data sources in the same app. C. Okay, everyone agrees on C? Okay, so let's check.
So yes, it's correct.
Green needs to come.
I think.
Why did it stop? Okay, so basically you are like all those who answered C is right, but I don't know, like maybe internet is something. No. Okay, yeah, it's there. So yeah, so as Tina used, like she can also upload that Excel sheet. We can also use from the maybe OneDrive, which we have saved. We can use Dataverse. We can use SharePoint. So we can use multiple types of data which we are using, because it's not always that we are using Microsoft technologies to save our data, right? So we can use multiple databases to connect to the app to get the details.
So basically what this says is that internal or external data sources can be fetched for your use of Power Apps.
Okay, so this is basically the learning path. So you can just search for PL900 on any browser and you will get this learning path coming up. Okay, so you can just go here, and this is the learning part to learn on every technology which we discussed today, be it Power Apps we got into hands-on, and we discussed Power Automate, Power BI. So you can get the overall idea, and if you things interest you, so you can just go for aka.ms/msdevday, and you can search for this. Like you will get the things. So you can, if you want, like if this thing is getting you interesting, like if you want to learn more about these kind of low-code tools, right? So just go for this, learn from here. You're having many hands-on sessions on each and every tools, and if you are sure enough, if you want to go for the examination, you can just go for the PL900 examination. This is basically an Azure examination, so you can go for this exam too. So yeah, so any queries if you are having, or you online folks are having any queries, then we are ready to take it, or else like queries. Anyone, any questions or anything? Yeah. Sorry? Power Pages are in preview. Okay. I didn't get your questions.
Power Pages are in preview.
He wants the actual app.
Okay. Like Power Pages.
Power Pages. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is in preview.
Any other questions? Any questions from online?
No. One question.
Yeah.
The AI builder had processors, right?
Yeah, like they are inbuilt.
So how flexible are those?
Repeat the question.
No. Okay. So basically, the question is, how flexible the AI builders are. So we cannot edit them. We cannot change the use of those functionality. We can just use them to make it in our use.
Okay, so what about if I want to add a custom model? I mean, I saw only 6 options.
Mhm.
One was card.
Okay, so there is another tool, an AI builder. So you can just use it to create whatever you want. So in the last MS Dev Day, one speaker, Namrata, created an app, custom AI builder for scanning your eyes. For example, many have some disease, eye disease, right? So she made a custom AI builder to scan your eyes and to fetch the details that whether it would not be given the exact details, right? But to fetch the details that, yeah, if you are having that infection, or is there any chance that you are infected with the specifically that disease, right? So you need to train that one. Like, it's not that the AI like ML thing, like you need to code and train it. Like, you need to upload the photos. For example, you are uploading the photos of that infected eye and telling that, yeah, this is infected. You are uploading the photos of normal eye and telling that this is not infected. So you are training it just by uploading it and mentioning it, and then you can use it in other systems.
Basically, it is using AI, but everything is already done.
Okay, so I just have to, there's an option over there.
Yeah, you can create it. Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah.
So in terms of this, how you can only use it with Excel.
Yeah.
As you guys told low code, no code. So in that you can only use Excel sheets to create visual apps, or you can also make apps what we make using Bubble.io and no code apps with little bit of scripting in the backend.
Okay, so you want to basically understand that what kind of databases or what kind of data we can use, right?
So right now the demonstration showed data from Excel and
Right.
then you made the app.
Correct.
So that's the very simple one.
Correct.
But you know Bubble.io
Uh-huh.
is a big no-code platform
Yeah.
for building large enterprise app also. But in this one you can do basic stuff for visual.
No, we can also use, like, there is a specific database called as Dataverse in Power Platform. So you can use that to create a backend kind of stuff. So that you can store the data and can connect it to your Power Apps to get the things. Okay.
So these are the ways. Yeah, these are some of the ways you could create an app, as you asked. It's not only Excel. This was for a demo purpose that we showed that you can create an app using Excel, but you can see these options as he mentioned: Dataverse, SharePoint, Image, SQL. You can create a blank app from the scratch. You can use Figma, and you have these templates. You can have a look. Yeah.
I have a doubt. So when you built the application, it was in the Power Apps, right? So can it be built into APK file?
No. So we need to install the Power Apps app from the maybe Play Store, Google Store, and we need to sign into the organization email and then use it. Yeah.
And you can collaborate within your organization mates.
So the apps won't be available.
No, actually, this is the thing, that in this Power App, it is not available publicly. Only the folks in your specific organization, in that subscription organization, can use it. Any other queries?
You can build hybrid apps. I'll tell you.
Okay, so last one. Okay, so thank you, everyone.
Thank
And
you
we are
all.
I'm removing you. Rohit and Arpita, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Can you unmute?
Yeah, I hope we are audible to you.
Yeah. Hello.
Maybe it's audio. Yeah, I need audio.
Hi,
Can
I
you?
guess we are.
Yeah, yeah. We can hear you. We can hear you. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Perfect. So it's so difficult to do hybrid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, right? It's fun, right, for us. This is good. Basically, it's also a challenging for speakers as well. They have to make sure that people who are online also are able to hear us and see us, and they are able to understand us, and also want to make sure people who are here as well, right? So it's been a good experience, and so far it is good. We are able to make sure that both of you are served, which is really good. Thanks, Aniket and Tina, for taking this. And I know it's first time you're doing hybrid, it's going to be tough. I also faced it, so yes, but now I know what to do, right? So which is good. And I'm bringing up Rohit and Arpita here. They are joining from different places. Like, where are you joining from?
I am from Madhya Pradesh.
So yeah, and I'm joining from Delhi.
Delhi. Delhi, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're joining us from different place. So interesting. And yes, welcome to Microsoft Student Developer Day. And I'll let this, take this stage for yourself to do your session. And they will be talking about functions, right? You're going to talk about functions and Azure Functions and another thing. So I'll let them take this forward. So Rohit and Arpita, over to you. I'm muting myself, and we can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot to you for managing like all this hybrid stuff, because we are sitting from like we are sitting far away from you at the moment because we are busy with our placements and all. Otherwise, we wish we could have been there to present in person. But yeah, hope looking for another opportunity forward. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. So both of us are the presenters for your next session, which is on Azure Functions. I am Rohit Yadav, and I am joined by Arpita Das. So Arpita, you want to introduce yourself first of all?
Okay. So, hi everyone, I am Arpita and I'm a final year student, Computer Science and Engineering from VIT Bhopal. That is why I'm in Madhya Pradesh. I'm basically from Delhi. And I am a Gold Microsoft Student Ambassador. And Rohit and me, we were mentors for Imagine Cup, the last one. Thank you.
Yeah, and I am also pursuing my master's studies right now from SRM University, and I am also Gold Microsoft Learning Student Ambassador. And yeah, that is all that we have as our intros, and we will go forward with our slides. I guess, Rashmita, I have shared my screen from my secondary account. If you can bring it up, please. Meanwhile, we have our session on Azure Functions, which is based on serverless technology, and we will have a look on it very soon. Um, Vivek, I have shared my screen. Can you please help bring it up? I guess it's not showing on the screen yet.
Because it's showing me an error. Your device is having an error. Can you rejoin? Just and rejoin
Yeah, sure, sure. I'll try.
the other device which you are joining in. Just the other device, not this one. So, folks who are here, if you have any questions, right, just raise your hand so that we can get the mics to you. So that people can hear your questions. And otherwise, it's very difficult for others to know what the question is, and probably will not be able to, repeat the question and answer it again.
I have just shared my screen once again. Please see if you can see it.
Yeah, I have added your screen.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot. Let me begin with my slideshow. All right. So yeah, here we are with our slides finally, and sorry for the delay. This happens a lot in virtual events, and so yeah, we will begin with our session. So we are the speakers for this session, Arpita and me, and without wasting any time, let's go ahead. So Arpita, please take on.
Yeah. Okay. So, firstly, I really wish I was there doing it physically, but here we are. So, the 4 points which we will focus on in today's session. Firstly, we will decide if serverless computing is right for whatever you want to make. Then, we will create an Azure function in the Azure portal. So, it's recommended that there's a Microsoft account with everyone there. And then we'll execute a function using triggers, and we will monitor and test our Azure function. Okay. So, that's the briefing. These are the 4 pointers. Now, moving ahead. Yes. So before we start, we need to know what Azure functions are. So, okay. Imagine you're working on an IoT project and you want to use infrared sensors at each table that provide you with data from all the locations. And you want to develop a reusable service which can process data from different sources. Now, what happens with serverless computing is that from a cloud provider like Azure, you can manage the infrastructure of your project in a much easier way. So Azure Functions is a key component of the serverless computing, and that enables you to run pieces of the code or the functions, mind it, the functions, pieces of the code, in any programming language of your choice to the cloud directly. Now let's decide if serverless computing is right or not. Next time. Okay, so what is serverless compute? This is something we are going to say repeatedly in our sessions. So serverless compute can be thought of a type of function as a service or a microservice hosted on any kind of a cloud platform. What do I mean by that is that your business logic will run on functions, which means you don't have to manually create or scale the infrastructure. It's all automated. The cloud provider will manage the infrastructure for you. And see, Azure has a lot of ways, a lot of architectural types to do that. So that cuts your time, money, and cost. And the two most common approaches in Azure to do so is by Azure Logic Apps and Azure Functions. In this session, we will focus on Azure Functions. Next slide. Yeah, okay. So, wait, did we move to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, there was a bit of lag. So now, why do we need the serverless compute solution? So like I said, you will cut down on time and money. The other thing is that it's great for hosting business logic in cloud. Why? You can write your business logic in any language of your choice and it gives you automatic scaling. So no need to manage servers and you're charged based on what is used. That is the best part. You use it, you pay for it. That's it. No need to pay extra for anything else. Then functions are generally event driven. So what does that mean? This means that they run only in response to an event. An event is also known as a trigger, which we will demonstrate in the coming slides. And so a few examples of triggers can be like HTTP request or messages being added to a queue. So you configure a trigger as a part of the function definition. And this approach simplifies your code by allowing you to declare where the data comes from and where it goes. Okay. So data coming is the trigger or the input and data going is the output. Now you don't need to write code to watch queues, blobs and other stuff. You can just focus on the logic. That is the prime benefit that comes with it. The other points which are over allocation of infrastructure can be allowed is that functions help in serverless computing. And like I said, for your scaling stuff, stateless functions are great for serverless and destruction of function instances, which means it gives you the flexibility to manage scaling, run on virtual networks, and isolate your functions. Next slide. Okay, so now, like anything that has benefit will also have drawbacks. Here are the drawbacks of serverless compute. So the major drawback would be the execution time and execution frequency. Now, by default, Azure functions have a timeout of 5 minutes. This timeout is configurable to a maximum of 10 minutes. And if you need more than that, then you can host it on a VM. Plus, if your service is initiated by an HTTP request, then you should expect an HTTP response, which restricts the timeout to like 2.5 minutes. And there are various sorts of durable functions to do that. Now, the second characteristic, which is the second drawback, it's the execution frequency. So if you expect your function to be executed continuously by multiple clients, it could be prudent to estimate the usage and calculate the cost. So it will actually be cheaper to host on a VM. So while scaling, only one function app instance can be created every 10 seconds for up to 200 total instances, which means different triggers will require different scaling requirements. Next slide. Okay, so now I know that I said a lot of things in the last few minutes, but we have an exercise here which will demonstrate you what I meant, and Rohit will do that for you. But we have one more slide before I give it on to Rohit. Yes, so we are here to create a function app in the Azure portal. So we will keep all the definitions, benefits, and drawbacks in our minds while we will create a function app. And the implementation will move around choosing the function app, choosing the service plan, storage requirements, creation, and verifying your app. Rohit, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Arpita. So now we will go on a tour of this whole service and what it has to offer. So as of right now, you have learned about serverless and all, but in essential, you also need to know about the portal. So first of all, we will have a look at the Azure portal. Um, so this is the Azure portal. How many of you are familiar with Azure portal here? Do you have any experience with Azure portal, working with Azure portal? No. So
Rohit,
I'll introduce.
can, can you increase the font size?
Yeah, sure, sure. I hope this is fine.
Is this fine? Okay, this is fine. Thanks, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Azure portal, and Azure, as we all know, is the cloud service by Microsoft, where you can host your code and deploy your applications and do a lot more than just deploying applications. You can manage your complete organization over here, and you can do a lot of stuff over here. So um, when let me put this in like more easier terms so that you can interpret what are Azure functions first of all. So as if you can see here, we have certain common options that are used by a lot of folks. So this includes functions, services like virtual machines, where you can have the exact virtual machine running in the cloud that we deploy on our local machines. And apart from that, we have SQL databases. Now, databases is a very popular choice of developers when they develop in the cloud, because they host their entire backend in the cloud and connect it with the apps. So this is also a popular service. And then we have the app services. Now, this is used to host a lot of apps, just like your web apps and other your mobile app backends, other services like that, related services. So these are some of the common services. Now, as Arpita has mentioned about serverless, what do we mean by serverless here is, as a developer, I do not have to allocate a virtual machine to run my function code or to perform any other task. All of it is taken care of automatically by Azure here, which is the cloud provider. I just need to write and deploy my business logic, and that is it. So we will have a look at our function, but let's go to the Azure portal. So like any other cloud provider portal that you may have used, like AWS or GCP, this has a plethora of services. If we go to all resources here, this shows like all of the resources that I have in use right now at the moment. And if we want to have a look at all the services that Azure supports, now this is the main set of services that we have here. So it is categorized into various categories like compute, networking, storage, web, etc., etc. And you can see it has support for nearly every service that you may want to use. So out of this, one of the offering here is serverless, and for that we have Azure Functions. So first of all, we will scroll through our slides, and so that it is more easier for you to interpret when we go forward with our demo. So as Arpita has already mentioned this thing, we can build our logic in our language of choice, which includes multiple languages. Like you can use Python, you can use Java, you can use PowerShell, you can even use C Sharp and other languages to build your logic. So this is the example of a logic. So this is a JSON snippet that you can see on the right side of this slide. And this is a trigger based service. What we mean by trigger based service here is that it works in response to an event that is fired. Now there are different triggers that can trigger an Azure function to run. Just like you can see this table on the left hand side of the slide, which says these are some of the services that are already supported by the service. Just like blob storage is one of the options in Azure if you want to store your data in raw format, so it can use that as a trigger. It can use Cosmos DBs is one of the main databases supported by Azure, so Cosmos DBs is supported. Event Grid is supported. Now one of the popular functions here is HTTP. So believe all of you, or a lot of you, may have already worked with APIs. So in APIs we make use of HTTP request, so it supports HTTP request as well. And then we have Microsoft Graph, queue storage, service bus. Now all of these are different types of services, and these trigger running of an Azure function. Now next, as we go forward with creation of our function, we go forward with I guess my slide is not updating.
It did. Slight change.
Oops. Yeah, there was a slight delay. So when we go to Azure Portal, we have a list of functions, and there are some predefined function templates that we may want to make, and these are used for like common scenarios. Other than that, we also have the choice to build our own logic. So these are some quick start templates available. Like you can see over there is HTTP trigger, there is a timer trigger. So these are different triggers that we use to create our logic. And after we do that, after we add our function template, we can also use custom templates. So these are defined in JSON snip format, and you can use your own logic as well. So at the right you can see the table. So these are some of the services that are already supported in the form of triggers. Moving forward to our next slide. So there are, again, I'll wait for my slide to update. I guess it is not updating. So I hope up till this part it made some sense for you all. So yeah, so there are several files that are created when we work on our logic. So in this case, we are working with JavaScript as our choice of language. So we have a function.json that is produced, and we have a index.js file that is produced. Depending on the language, these files are changed. And after we write our business logic in this space, we then test our function, and we can run it based on the choice that we want. We can test it from the Azure portal itself, or if you have access to tools like say Postman, from which you can send maybe HTTP request to the function, you're free to do so. You will be provided with the function keys, your function endpoint, and you can use it. Now after you test, this is also a convenient way that you can test your function in the Azure portal itself, and after you test it, you can debug it right in the portal. You also have the choice to use your own set of IDEs like Visual Studio Code, for example, to write and debug your function from there. Now this all Azure functions also come with monitoring support, so we can have access to a steady log where we can monitor our functions, how are they running, is there any issue that is occurring over there, so we can look at that as well. All right. So there is this logs pane, and this shows all of the logs that are produced by our function. And we also have access to viewing the errors and warnings that are generated by our function over there. So now let's go forward to the actual demo so that you can grab it in a much more better way. So in the portal, I will choose the function app from here. I guess my screen is visible. Yeah, it is. So I have already created my function app. So I will show the demo from that only. So first of all, we need to create a function app. So what this function app does is it acts like a container, and we can have a bunch of functions running in the same function app. Now this function app is used to provision the resources that we need for our functions to run properly. So this is my function app that I have already created, and as you can see on the status, it shows up as running. So this is in the running state, and it is deployed in the West India region right now, and my app name is Reactor Serverless demo. So I'll open it, and over there you can see this is the overview, and here we can see different details about our function app. So this is the endpoint in the URL section of my function app, and as you can see there are other details over here, like which operating system it is running on, location, etc. App service plan is used for like billing purposes, so a plan is defined from my account automatically. And there is this runtime version is for my stack and everything. Subscription ID and other details are related to my account. As you can see, this is the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription is the account subscription that we have access to using our student ambassadors account. So my app is running in this subscription, and you can see other set of details over here as well, like what is the memory that it is consuming, how many times is my function being executed across the time. So I did a test before, so it has only been executed one time as of now. But if you are deploying it in production, obviously this number will be much higher. So we can monitor our function from there, and if you see this left sidebar, there are a bunch of options in there. Like you have access to the activity log, you can impose some restrictions as to who can control this, and there are a lot of options in there. After the session, if you plan to work on this, you can have a look at this. Right now we need to access our function. So now this function is like a unit of code that will run, and this is defined for a particular problem. Just like when we write our code, our own code, like our one program can have a set of functions. So similarly this acts like a program, and we have a bunch of different functions in there. So this is my HTTP trigger one app, and this actually works on the trigger of HTTP response. So when I throw, it uses HTTP triggers for it to run. And now some more details about this function and all. Um, Now you can see there are 4 options in there. There is code plus test. Now this is the main area where my code will be hosted. As you can see right now, since I have chosen JavaScript as my language of choice, there are 2 files created in here. One is index.js and the another one is function.json. I hope this is visible to you all. So these are the files that host my code, and I'll show you the other options as well, and then we will move on towards our code. So integration is this tab allows you to choose different set of triggers, and you can do it in like less coding way. If you want to create like lesser logic, so this is for that. And then on monitoring, you can get access to logs for your function and see how it is running. You can evaluate its performance and optimize it accordingly. And this function keys is the section where it will show me my function keys and all. Now I need it if I am accessing it through my IDE or I am working on it programmatically from another portal. This is obviously hidden by default since it is private information and is not meant to be shared. So we will go forward to our code plus test area right now. So as you can see, the problem that I am trying to solve here, let me show it to you first of all. So this is the Microsoft Learn module, and you can follow it on it after this session if you want to learn serverless coding. So let me scroll to the area that we are trying to solve. Yeah, another piece of information, you also get access to Learn Sandbox if you opt for performing it through Microsoft Learn. What this does is it will give you access to a temporary Azure subscription, and you can use it to create function apps and to test your code without paying a single penny. So this is a great option for you to learn Azure Functions from here. So right now I am not using a Learn Sandbox because I am working from my own subscription. Now this covers the steps that all we will follow through this process, including like creation of our function app, creation of function, and other details that you need to know. Now we will go forward to our actual code. Just a second. So as you can see, again, this is the reference point that I'm using for my demo. So moving back to our code. So this is a use case scenario that I'm trying to cover here is, since we have given the example of IoT, like there is a bunch of data that is coming from, say, an Azure Cosmos DB instance, and it is collecting data from a lift that is being deployed in, say, an organization. Because the use case that I'm trying to solve here is when the lift works, like all the fund system, it works on a particular temperature. So there are a couple of sensors deployed over there, and they are collecting the reading of temperature from the lift system. And in case it is higher than a particular temperature, there should be a warning sent as to the system needs to be worked, or the lift needs a maintenance. So if you see here in the logic, I hope the font size is right. So if reading temperature is less than 25, the reading status will be shown here as okay. Now if it is lesser, if it is between 25 to 50 degrees Celsius, this should throw a caution message. And if it is more than 50 degrees Celsius, then it should throw a danger message. So this is the logic that I'm trying to solve here. So what this function will do here is it will collect those readings, and accordingly, like it will go through the readings and it will show a message accordingly. And this will be logged as well. So this will be in our testing of the function, this will print on the portal. This will be printed on here in the portal itself, and afterwards if you deploy it, it will be sent back as an HTTP response to whatever service you are using. So this is my main function logic here, and let me show you the function.json file as well. Now Azure Functions uses something called as bindings. Now what this binding means here is, say you are interacting with a couple of services over here. So there is like a boilerplate code already defined for you, in the sense that you do not need to write code for that integration as well. Say I want to work with an HTTP response over here, so I do not need to write the code for triggering to trigger the HTTP response or to collect data from the stream that is coming inside. This is defined in the form of a JSON file where we simply define it in a very easy manner. As you can see, the auth level parameter here means that the authorization level that my function is going to use. Now type, this is an HTTP trigger, hence this is the type. Direction, this means that it will ingest data from my HTTP trigger. This indirection means that had it been an out, it will send data outside the function to whatever stream we are using. Now this is the name of the function, which is req, and then we have defined the method. So it can use both get and post methods. So this is my code, and then again it will send out the response in the form of a HTTP response. So the direction will be defined here as out because it is sending data out of the function, and again the name here is res. So this can be termed as like result. So let's go forward and test our function now. So right now I am testing it from the Azure portal itself, but if you want, you can use tools like curl, or you can use Postman to create create HTTP request and send it there. So in the body part here, if as you can see, there is we provide a number of inputs to our function. Now the HTTP method that I am using here is post, and then there is a part for key here, which is usage of a master key. I can use a query parameter here to share my I guess my screen is not being shared.
Yeah, the sharing
Let me
stopped.
Yeah, let me check it once.
No, we can't see your screen.
Yeah, just a second. I'm trying to share.
Again, you'll have to reconnect. I think it's showing device something, some error.
I have shared my screen again. Please see if it is visible. Yeah, awesome. So sorry for this disturbance, and we are back at our demo again. So we were discussing different type of inputs that we can provide to our function. So we can append a query here if we want to, and then headers, we can obviously add the headers. Now this is a mandatory part that we need to do here. All of it has been defined automatically in the body section. So let's assume these readings as they are coming from a source. Obviously, when you're deploying it in production, everything will be defined automatically. But for the sake of demo, we are doing this here at the moment. So I am taking 3 readings here. Now this driver gear ID is like the name of the sensor from where the data is coming. It is accompanied with the timestamp of the data when it was collected, and there is this temperature reading. Now this temperature reading is being used by the function here in order to provide an appropriate response. So we can see we have 3 readings over here, and they are different temperatures. So one over here is 23 degrees Celsius, one is 45, and the third one here is 55. Now let's run our code and let's see what we get in response. So as you can see, the function is being executed here. So what is happening here, the Azure portal internally is sending like an HTTP request to the function, and we have received a response. So let's see what it is. So you can see in the JSON snippet here, the status flag has been appended, and now what this status parameter shows. So according to our logic, we have said that if the temperature is below 25 degrees Celsius, we need to get an OK status. So this is the OK status here. Now if the temperature is between 26 degrees to 50 degrees Celsius, we should get a caution message. And this is exactly what we have received here. The status here shows as caution. And for the third reading, which is above 50 degrees, we have a danger message over here. So this is exactly the logic that we have defined. And if you deploy this code in production, now all of this happens automatically. And once you define a function, it keeps on running without any user intervention. So it will keep on ingesting data from your data source, any database that you may have defined, and accordingly it will append this message. And this message, when received in the form of an HTTP response by a particular service, it can act accordingly. So, say if this Azure function, like the data that it is giving out, it is connected to, say, another virtual machine, or say another system, IoT based system, that maybe turns off the lift automatically if the temperature is out of control. And then it can trigger mail automatically. Like, I think Aniket and Tina in their previous session have shown you some of the triggers already based on Power Automate service. So say we can connect this to Power Automate, where we can automatically shoot an email to the concerned authorities that the temperature in the lift is above the required levels, and this may be dangerous for future. So accordingly, we can work on this, and all of it happens automatically. Now, the key part why I deployed this on an Azure function instead of going for, say, an app or maybe hosting this on a virtual machine is because there are certain use cases where you may find functions useful, and there are some cases where you may not find this useful. Now, say for example, our code was meant to be running at different intervals of time. We are not running this continuously. Say we run it like once in an hour or maybe once in a day. This frequency may depend based on your use case that you are trying to solve. So over here, my code is not running like regularly. So we are running it at a continuous interval of time, so it makes sense to deploy it on function and not to provision like a virtual machine that is continuously running and incurring cost even if we are not using it. So in use cases like this, it makes more sense to use our Azure function here. So this is an example of a serverless technology that we have access to, and developers use it a lot in their applications. Now, very common example of this is when you sign up for a service and you receive an email for OTP based verification or to verify your email address. It makes use of serverless technology behind, where it uses where this this logic does not needs to run like all of the time. So in use cases like this, we make use of HTTP triggers, APIs, and obviously connect it with services like Azure Functions. If you need to work in a low code manner, just because our previous session was on a low code technology, which is Power Apps, you can make use of Logic Apps as well. That is a great service, and it also works in like a drag and drop fashion, so it is also amazing. So I guess this finishes our demo part here that we had. We have shown you given you a tour of Azure Portal, what it is like, and we have covered our example of the Azure function we had. So next up we have, okay, so these are the slides. One slide was omitted, and we are here on summary. So Arpita, you wanna go ahead?
Yes. So, yeah. So, we hope you learned about Azure functions and how to use those functions. And like I said, it's a great way to host your services and your solutions and help you scale them. And the best thing is that you can integrate those functions with other services like GitHub, Twilio, and other things that you want to. And let me just recommend Microsoft Graph here because I love using it and you should give it a shot. So you can integrate Azure functions with Graph and it gives really nice results. So let's take a quick quiz, shall we, Rohit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just
All
going to
right.
ask these questions. So, which of the following best defines serverless logics? First option is code you write that doesn't run on servers, or the code that you write that runs on servers you manage, or the code that you write that runs on servers a cloud provider manages. So which one do you think is the right answer?
C from audience here.
Yes, C is the right answer.
Awesome. Yeah,
Great. I'm so
that was the
glad I
right
was
answer.
able to share the knowledge.
Yeah. Over to question number 2. So the container that groups functions into a logical unit for easier management, deployment, and sharing of resources is called. So we have three options here, which is a resource group, a function app, or a function collection. Which one do you think is the answer over here? Any guesses? No worries, let's reveal the answer. So the
D.
right answer,
Someone guessed it.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, so that was a right guess. And function app is the container that groups different functions. So we can have a function app that houses a bunch of functions in there, and the resources are deployed from them for them automatically. And yeah, it is meant to make management of these functions easier. So the last question goes to Arpita.
Okay. So let's imagine the situation. We secured a function against unknown HTTP callers by requiring a function specific API key, okay, which gets passed with each call. Now, which of the following fields is the name header in the HTTP request that needs to contain this key? So X functions key, X requested with, or X CSSR token. Now, this can be a bit tricky.
Audience here, they are telling it's C.
Let's see. Is
Let's
it
reveal the
C?
answer. No, it is the
Okay.
its functions key parameter here. So what it
Yeah.
contains when we pass a request, we usually append our API key in the its function keys parameter, and this is defined in the function header.
Yes.
So with that, we have come to an end of what we had to present. This completes our presentation on Azure Functions. And Azure Functions are a great way to deploy your business logic and run like non-regular logic that you do not need to run continuously. So hope our session was of some logic to you, and maybe you can use it in your Nets project that you build. So we are open to any questions that you may have. Any questions?
I think there are no questions. Oh,
Any
there are.
questions? Any questions here? Any questions? No questions? What is a function? I will ask questions now. If you don't ask questions, I'll ask questions. Now everybody is silent. When I ask question, huh? No, I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to take the risk. Any questions, online audience? Okay. There is no questions. Thank you,
Wow.
Rohit and Arpita, for doing this session. I know it's very difficult to prepare for this kind of sessions while you're delivering online and you're not seeing audience and also here in person. So thanks a lot for being there and driving this session. Thank you. I'm going to bring next speakers up while I'm moving you folks out.
Bye.
Hello everyone.
Hi
I'll quickly share
everyone.
my
Hi
screen.
Vidushi.
Hello
Hi Vivek.
Jasleen.
Hello,
Hello Vivek. How are
hello
you?
Vidushi. Hello Jasleen. How are you?
We're
I
doing
am
great,
Where
great.
are you?
thanks.
Where are you from?
So I'm currently in Mumbai.
How did you reach Mumbai?
And I actually shifted to Mumbai.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
you where are you from?
I
Jasleen?
am currently in Kolkata. My college is in Pune, so I'll be traveling to Pune next week. So I'm currently at home with my parents.
Fantastic. So welcome to Microsoft Student Developer Day. There's a bunch of audience here. There is
Hmm.
online audience as well. As I see, there's almost like 40 of them are watching it online, which is really
Hmm.
great. And yeah, so this session is going to be more in depth, right, on R and visualization and
Yes.
other things. So many of you are here from data science background.
It's gonna be fun.
Nice.
All
Okay,
right
just for
then. Should
context,
we?
there are only few people who are from data science background, so make sure that you go and explain in depth as well.
Yep.
Go to basics and explain
Hmm.
it. Um, so can you share your screen?
My screen is already shared. Can you like bring it on the uh, live?
Yeah, you can see it.
You can see my screen now.
Yeah, Vidushi, we can.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we can see that.
So, hello everyone, welcome to Microsoft Student Dev Day, and we're gonna be talking about data visualization with R. So, gonna help you to how can you efficiently write a story around your data. So, this session is gonna be conducted by me, Vidushi, and Jasleen. I'll just give a short introduction about myself. So, I'm pursuing my undergrad in computer science engineering, which is specialized in big data analytics, and I'm in my final year now. I'm also working as a DevRel intern with AppSmith, and I'm a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. So, aside from my professional life, I love to cook, and you can always connect with me on the Twitter handles that is going to be mentioned on all my slides. You can reach out to me for any project ideas or just data visualization with R, Python, and I'll be glad to help you. Just lean over to you for your introduction.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I am Jasleen, as you already know by now. So I am currently in my final year of my master's degree in data science. And I know most of us just think Python is the main thing that all data scientists do, but surprisingly, we give equal weightage to R these days, hence these lessons and this session. And other than that, of course, I'm one of the Gold Microsoft student ambassadors, just like Vitushi. I have a small community of my own based out of Kolkata with Code Academy. We have 150 members almost, and we have meetups monthly to discuss just about anything in tech. Other than that, I usually spend my free time either doing sessions like these or freelancing on the side with my subject oriented work. And I have been published twice in the data science domain as well. The third one is on the cards. So hopefully that will be out as well soon. And I really hope you enjoyed this session. We'll try to keep it brief, but we'll also try to keep it fun. And we're just hoping you have a good takeaway that R can be used equally as strongly as Python in data science. And it's actually relatively easier when you think about Python visualizations and R visualizations. And I hope that's the takeaway you have at the end of the session. So the first part of the session will be conducted by Vidushi. So Vidushi, over to you.
Yes. All right. So here's the flow of the session. We're gonna understand what data visualization is and what can you visualize. Then we're gonna be talking about visualizing quantities, distributions, proportions, and finding relationships. And in the end, we're gonna be sharing a few resources for you. So let's begin with understanding what data visualization is. So does anyone from the audience there would like to, or the audience online would like to attempt about their understanding of data visualization? There's gonna be no 100% correct definition because there is no correct definition. So it's just your understanding of what data visualization is. So any takers on this?
Vidushi, can I answer?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Well, basically, like you said, we want to tell a story from the data. And I think all of us as kids might have read those Tinkle comics and those Supandi stories. So anything with a visual is actually more enticing. So I think that's what we try to do with data visualization. Tell a story
Yes.
from the data visually.
Yes, awesome. So I'm gonna be reiterating what Justine just said. So data visualization is the most important task of a data scientist, and this is primarily done because an image is always more than what 1,000 words in text could speak. So this pictorial memory of ours just remembers images and visuals so well that even if you write 1,000 words in text, it's not as efficient as an image. So what data visualization can help you achieve is it can give you information about data. For example, the spikes in the data, whether or not the data is peaking at a stage, or getting to know about the central tendency of data, knowing about the different kinds of groups that are there, or if there are any clusters in the data, and that in turn will help you to know about if your data has any outliers. Now all of these have multiple functions. For example, there's outlier analysis, they're in the data cleaning stage, and so all of this happens only when you visualize the data and see what information it's being given. So now we're gonna see about what can you visualize. So what are the things that you can actually visualize? So it's we can visualize quantities. So like example, you can visualize height of a group of people, weight of a group of people, or you can visualize distributions, how well the data is distributed. So here you can either see if either the data is very concentrated on a segment, or it's evenly distributed across the whole scale. And we can see about proportions, which is how is your data part of a whole. And then we can see relationships among data, so whether a variable x and variable y are they related or not, or if they have any relation, what's the kind of relation that they have. There's a star between that there's a star above quantities and below distributions, because I'm going to be covering these two topics and Justine is going to be talking about proportions and relationships. Now, we built this lesson over the GitHub repository of Microsoft. It's called Data Science for Beginners. All of you can access it. It's currently completely there in Python, and segments of it are also there in R. So Jasleen and me have contributed this part of the lesson in R, and I'm going to be linking that in the PPT, or you can just look up for Data Science for Beginners and it will be readily available for you. So I'm going to be giving a brief idea about how do we visualize quantities in R. So here we're going to be using this Ggplot2 library, which is very famous for any kind of a visualization. It's because it helps to create simple and sophisticated plots very easily and of virtually all kinds. So the process of making a plot in ggplot2 is to first identify the target parts of your data frame. So which columns are you targeting specifically? Always, it's not that you're going to be using the whole table to analyze. It's going to be just parts of table that you're going to visualize. Then you perform necessary transformations on the data. So here what you do is, for example, if your data is a daily data, for example, you have number of code cases that are every day, recording every day. Now if you want to visualize a monthly span of this data, what you will do is you'll have to transform this data from a daily data into a monthly data. So that's going to be the second step of this process. Next, this third step is going to be that you assign the x and y values. So you're going to be seeing whether you want to plot the number of cases on the x-axis or the y-axis, where the date going to be or the month's going to be. And then you're going to decide what kind of a plot do you want. So is it going to be a bar graph or a line graph, or can be a scatter plot? And then you just show the plot. So it's very, very simple and but well explained as well. So a plot is essentially a summation of data, aesthetics, and geometry. So data here is going to be the data set that you're targeting, which was the first step of our process. The aesthetics indicate what are the variables that you'll be assigning to the x-axis and the y-axis. And the geometry indicates the type of the plot. For example, it's going to be a bar plot or a scatter plot. So ggplot2 in ggplot2 we just have to provide the aesthetics and the graphical primitives, and then ggplot2 takes care of all the other factors. So it's as simple as just telling which columns are responsible for the x-axis, which columns are responsible for the y-axis, and just telling what kind of a chart, and it's that easy. So in order to visualize quantities, you should first know which is the write-up of a plot for your data. So it comes up with your business problem. So if you want to analyze trends, you're going to be using either a column chart or a line chart. For values, you're going to be using a bar or a column chart, a pie chart, or a scatter plot. So to determine parts of a whole, you're going to be using a pie chart. For example, if you're going to see how many of the total number of COVID cases, how many cases were deceased. So it's going to be parts of whole. And to see the distribution of data, you're going to be using either a scatter plot or a column chart. And then to see the relationship between values, you are either going to use a bubble chart, a scatter plot, or a line chart. So these are all the different types of plots that you would need for different use cases. Coming up to visualizing quantities, we to make a line plot, we can use the geom_line function in ggplot2. Similarly, to make a scatter plot, you can use a geom_point function. For a bar plot, you can use a geom_bar function. So this is the link to the code and the lesson. The code, right, the repository from the start has information about how do you set up your environment. You don't need an environment actually. How do you set up and import libraries is what I meant. And how do you get the data set? The data set is also there in the repository. I'll quickly show the repository and also the demo. So here's what the repository looks like. I hope the font size is clear. And here are all the lessons, and you can go through the readme to understand what all this contains. And then once you go into the data visualization section, you go into R, and that's where you find all our lessons. So in visualizing quantities, you can explicitly see how we're gonna make a line chart. I'm gonna be demoing this or probably just explaining how do we come up with this. So this one is we call the ggplot function, and then we tell them what is the data set that we have to take. So in this case, we're analyzing different features of birds. For example, their maximum wingspan or their minimum wingspan, which breed they are from, things like this. So in the ggplot function, we tell the data, then we give the columns that are responsible for the x-axis and the y-axis. So choosing what you have to plot, giving the aesthetics. Now you call the geom_line function to make a line chart, which is what I demonstrated in the PPT also. And then we give a theme. So the x-axis text, which is going to be the x-axis text, the tick marks, these tick marks, they're going to be at an angle of 45 degrees. Then you're going to give an X label, which is birds in this case, and the Y label, which is going to be a wingspan of that bird, which is going to be in centimeters. And then you call the gg title function to give the title of the chart. It is as simple as that. Even if you write the first two lines, you will get a chart. The next four lines are just for beautifying the chart and to make it readable for everyone to understand. So this is what the chart looks like. I'll zoom out a little just so that you can see the whole chart at one glance. So this is what it looks like. Although these were the initial charts, they're gonna be very tiny in like the peaks and the crests and troughs, because the data was really large. But over a period of time, it gets better as this is how you spot outliers using a scatter plot. So this was one of the chart, and all the other charts are going to be made in the very same manner. So for example, geom_point for scatter plot and geom_bar for bar plot. And then you can retain the rest of the qualities like the title of the chart, the X label, the Y label, and it goes on. So once you're done with reading the curriculum, you can actually attempt a post-lecture quiz, do the assignment, and there's a challenge. So it's gonna completely give you a whole holistic picture about what data visualization is. Coming up to visualizing distributions, we're gonna be seeing how well the data is distributed or whether or not it is distributed. To do that, we're gonna be seeing about these three graphs. So it's going to be the histogram, which is geom underscore histogram function for a heat map which has 2D bin counts, which is this one. It helps us to establish a correlation between the variables. So we're going to be using the geom underscore bin 2D function. And for density plots, we're going to be having geom underscore density. So this is the density plot. So you can see whether or not the data is distributed here. And again, I'm not keeping it very hands-on because essentially this is the last tech session, and I just want to help you understand that data visualization is possible with R, can be done easily. These are the functions that you just need to know or look them up when you're making the charts. So coming on to the visualizing the distributions, so you can call ggplot function for starting a chart. Go to birds filtered. So this is the again the name of the data set. We give that as a parameter for data. For the x-axis, we mention for the x-axis we mention a column that's responsible, and we mention call the geom histogram function to make a histogram, and then the number of bins, whether or not the histogram should have a high number of bins or a lesser number of bins, and the y label to be something. You can also mention the x label. So I'll zoom out to show what the graph looks like. Yes. So this is what the histogram looks like with 30 bins. And when you look at this, which has lesser bins, this just has 10 bins. I'll zoom in. Yes. So this just has 10 bins. And then look at the distribution. It's more visible in the higher number of bins. But again, if you just keep increasing the number of bins rapidly, it's not going to make any sense. So here you can see how a distribution is very clearly seen amongst the birds data. And then again, there's going to be a post-lecture quiz and assignment for you to complete, and then a challenge. So once you're planning to stick onto this curriculum and to get your hands on R, it's very simple. Just download the data set, import it in your workspace, just copy paste the snippets, try to understand what it does, and customize them to your use case. So that's about the first part of the session. Justine is going to be taking over the second part. The Data Science for Beginners Microsoft curriculum is there on GitHub. It's open source, everyone can see it. And this is my Twitter handle. You can get in touch with me for any doubts that you have, any data science projects that you have in mind, and we can totally work them out. So that's about it. Justine, you can take over.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction to visualizations, Vidushi. I will just be sharing my screen. Just let me know once it's visible. Is it visible, Vidushi?
Yes, your screen is visible.
All right, I'll just start from here then. So I hope now, till this part of the session or the discussion, you have an idea about what do we do with visualizations, why do we do these visualizations, what's the point, what's the need. So I'm not going to cover all of that. I'll start with visualizing proportion, relationships, and how to come up with meaningful visualizations. Now, there are a lot of libraries and packages that we can use to make just about any visualization we can think of. There are plots called the violin plots, there are dist plots, hist plots. You think of a plot, there is a package for it. But the goal is to make meaningful ones. So that's what we'll be focusing on in the end. And yeah, just a small joke for the data visualization enthusiasts here that no, pizza deliveries do not count as deliverables. That will actually skew your results when you visualize it. So we're not going to do that. And this also kind of tells us that how easy it is to manipulate data and manipulate a visualization to suit our needs. That also I'll cover while talking about meaningful visualizations. So starting with proportions. So we're going to talk about these three really fancy graphs that you can make in R. And for the dessert lovers out there, there are obviously the pie chart, the donut chart, and the waffle chart. That's their actual name. And they're just as easy to build as they are to eat. So don't sweat it. Don't think it's too complex. And like Vidushi covered, pie charts usually help us to talk about paths to whole relationships. So, for example, there are different movie genres, and the population that we're testing, some like horror, some like thriller, some like rom coms. So, that can be easily depicted using a pie chart. So, everyone will get a certain percentage. Similarly, donut charts. Now, the example that I gave would be best suited for a donut chart because it's a categorical data, it's not a numerical data. So, for numerical data, we tend to gravitate towards pie charts, and for categorical data, proportions of categorical data, we head towards a donut chart. And visually, a donut chart is not very different from a pie chart, just the center is removed. So we'll see visualizations as well, but it looks exactly like a donut. I can assure you that. And the last one, this is something that I myself learned while creating these lessons for GitHub. It's a waffle chart. So I did not know about such a chart ever before that. So it basically helps to highlight proportions and visualize data at one glance. Again, an example would make this clearer. So talking about pie chart, so this is simply the code to make a grouping. So in this data science lesson, like Vidushi said, you can follow along the link or you can check it out later as well. So for visualizing proportions, the data set that we have considered in this lesson is the Audubon mushroom data set, which basically talks about 23 types of mushrooms, right? So our problem statement for visualizing proportions is that we want to visualize a comparative analysis of all the mushrooms that we have. So first we have to classify, the problem statement says that we have to classify them into edible mushrooms and non-edible mushrooms. So the first thing that we're doing here is a little bit of pre-processing before we actually visualize the graph, is that we are grouping them by class. So this piece of code that you can see on the screen, it is helping you to group the data based on the mushroom classes, which is edible and poisonous. So when you run this code in your workspace, this is the output that you should be ideally getting. So the count is generated for edible ones and the poisonous ones. And then with this next piece of code, this is just one line, you don't even have to use ggplot for this. This is an inbuilt function in R called pi. You just pass the count of the mushrooms and the class. The class here is edible and poisonous. And you can just add a heading or a title called edible, that whether they're edible or not. And this is the plot that R will give back to you. So easily by looking at this, we can tell that the edible mushrooms are obviously more in number than the poisonous ones. So this was the first type of visualization that we talked about while working with proportions. The next one is a donut chart. So like I said, it is basically helpful for a categorical data. So over here, we've tried to classify the habitats where these mushrooms grow. So again, using this small piece of code and this library dplyr, we will be generating a count of the habitats that we have and how many fungi types are found in those habitats. So this piece of code will easily do that for you. It's basically grouping it by habitat and summarizing a count for you. And then using ggplot and the pi donut function in ggplot, since I said they're very closely related but used in different use cases, the pi donut function, if you just pass the types of habitats that you have and the count that you have generated by performing the grouping above, you can get a chart that looks something like this with even the percentage of distribution within the donut graph. So this is what these few lines of code can generate for you, and from a very vast data set, you can just get your insights from this one figure very easily just by doing these 10 lines of code. So that is what makes visualizations in R actually very easy and very easy to read as well. Like Vidushi mentioned in her part of the session, a visualization is only useful if it's readable and you can get insights from it. So both of these criteria are satisfied, then your visualization is good to go. So the last one, the waffle chart, this one was a bit tricky to understand and implement myself as well, but it's actually very insightful when we think about it. So for making a waffle chart in R, you have to install a package which is waffle, which you can see over here. This is the command to install it in R. Don't sweat it if you're not familiar with R or you have never worked with R. This is actually very simple. You get a small terminal and you just have to run this one line of code for it to install this waffle package. Next, we're again doing the same thing. We're summarizing the cap color. So the cap color parameter here basically tells the color of the mushrooms. So using dplyr library, we are just classifying them based on their cap color and generating a count. Next, we are importing the library Waffle, and we are basically taking out the colors because we need the visualization to also make sense and to be more aesthetically pleasing. So what I have done here is I have also extracted the cap colors and stored it under names and use their count as well, and then using the Waffle function and the scale fill manual parameter over here, I have also tried to replicate the color of the mushrooms of the species into my graph. So this is what the chart would look like. So there are obviously these are the types of colors that the mushrooms have, and I have tried to make the color same as the color of our visualization, so we can clearly see at one glance the distribution of the types of colors of the fungi species that we have in our data set. So they range from brown, buff, cinnamon green, pink, purple, red, white, and yellow. So this is what a waffle chart does for you. So to summarize these three charts, waffle chart is great for one view glances. Secondly, for proportions, we're specifically dealing with proportions right now, so that's what we're going to focus on. And a donut chart is great for categorical data, and a pie chart is great for numerical data. So that is how you can make a choice between all of these. Next, we're going to talk about visualizing relationships. So now we have done visualizing quantities, we have done the conversions, we have learned how to import them. Now the main job of a data scientist or a data analyst is to put the relationships into paper, that what affects what. Does the increase in temperature affect the increase in sales of ice cream? Or does the decrease of temperature affect the increase in sales of woolen garments? So those are the type of questions that you will be required to work with as a data scientist or a data analyst. And that is why these are the graphs that actually give you the most insight when working with them. The first one is a scatter plot. A scatter plot basically talks about relationships between any two variables or two quantities, and it looks a bit like this. So you have an x-axis and a y-axis, and then you just plot the related value between them. So like I gave the example of that ice cream sales. So if, for example, we take temperature on one axis and ice cream sales on one axis, we can easily see, just by looking at the graph, we can intuitively tell, is it increasing or is it decreasing? Is it positively correlated or is it negatively correlated? So scatter plots are actually really important in domains like regression analysis as well. Regression analysis actually helps you use statistics along with these plots and statistics along with your ML models to actually quantify what kind of relationship exists between the two. So there can be multiple linear regression, there can be simple linear regression, there can even be non-linear regression. So these tools are available in R, Excel, and Python all the same. These tools actually give you a lot of statistical insights and a lot of statistical quantities that will help you understand the relationships existing in your data. So a scatter plot is the easiest way to justify a relationship, whether it's positively correlated, negatively correlated, or if there is no correlation at all. Next, we have line charts. So line charts basically, like Vidushi already covered this, it tells about a trend over time. So I'll have a very fun example in the next slide to explain this to you. So we're going to wait till that. Next, we have facet grids. A facet grid is kind of like a waffle chart. It gives you a one glance view, but it is made up of multiple charts grouped together. A visualization will help you understand this better. So I'll just wait till that slide comes up. And the last one is dual line chart. So we can even plot two variables over time. So for example, in visualizing relationships, if we use the honey data that we've used even in our lessons over there, honey data of the US Department of Agriculture, if we want to see, for example, predict there are two states and we want to see how much is their yield per year of honey. So we have two states, say Arizona and some other state, and then we try to Florida. We try to plot it in one graph. So intuitively, the graph will tell us which state is producing more honey over the period of time. So that is when the use of dual line charts comes in. So, like I said, a very good example, I think most of the audience would also relate with this. For a line chart, which tells you a trend over time, is basically your bedtime habits relating to your age. So, when we're really young, we are living with our parents and we have this fixed routine of going to school. We sleep really early, wake up really early, get done with our day really fast. Then we get to go to college, cut to 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. deadlines in college. We basically become a night owl. We including me right now, since I'm in my final year as well. So late nights become a very, very usual thing when we are, say, in the range of 18 to 30, maybe, or 25. And then after that, you might be able to see a discontinuity in the graph. That's where it says if you're raising young kids, you basically get no sleep. So that's another insightful trend that this graph is telling us. And then as we begin to age, we get back to our habit of sleeping early, being an early riser, taking care of our health. So this basically what a line chart tries to tell you. So this example should help you retain what a line chart actually does. And for the movie buffs out there, so basically this is a scatter plot of the kind of roles Meryl Streep has done over her career. So if there are any Meryl Streep fans in the audience, they'd be able to relate to this really well. So based on the categories serious, cold, frivolous, and warm, someone came up with this fantastic visualization of her movie roles as a scatter plot. So we can clearly see from this one visual her entire career, kind of, that she's done this kind of movies, or she's played characters that are serious, she's played characters that are warm, she's even played characters that are cold. So moving on. So like I said, visualizations can be fun, informative, and intuitive at the same time. So let's try to plot a scatter plot really easily using Ggplot. And Ggplot basics have been covered by Vidushi. So this is just one line of code along with the parameter geom point or the function geom point. It gives you a graph that looks like this. So it's basically like going back to the example of the honey data set that we have. We are trying to predict what is the price per pound per state. So we have taken state in one axis and the price per pound in one axis. So using this simple function, we are able to tell, okay, the prices are going up and going down. But again, this graph is not very intuitive because the distribution is a lot, the data is a lot. So we're not able to tell a lot from it just by looking at it, but we are able to see, okay, this is where the general price range lies. Next, if you try to enhance the same piece of code and try to come up with a better visualization, we can use a parameter or function called the scale color gradient. So we can actually impart a color gradient to it and do it based on here. So we want to see what in which year the sales were how much. So over here the color gradient ranges from 2000 to 2012, and this basically tells us it goes from darker to lighter like a gradient, and this gives us an insight. Okay, so during these years these states were doing this much of production and this was the price, and during these years our price was not really good. So this actually gives you more information than the last one. Moving on, we have another chart to discuss, which is a line chart, like I said. So line charts can be either made with Ggplot, or you can make a smooth line chart using Qplot as well. Qplot is another inbuilt function of R. So one good thing about R is you can make all plots from the inbuilt functions as well, or you can use external libraries such as Ggplot or Plotly also to make better and more aesthetically pleasing visualizations. So even if you're just a beginner, you don't want to go through the entire documentation of Ggplot and all of that, you can just use R help and just start plotting up with these inbuilt functions. So over here, we're basically trying to plot year-wise increase in the price of honey. And this is what the graph is telling us, that with the increase in years, the price has also gone up. And the next one that we have is a facet grid. So like I said while explaining facet grids, is that it gives you this one glance look at what is going on in your data. So if you have yield per state and you want to map it to here, that okay, I want to see every year separately and how much yield is being produced. So facet graph is the way to go, and ggplot lets you do this very easily with this function called facet wrap. So you just pass your variable over here as here, and you have the function over here. The rest of the code is exactly the same. Just you have to put a plus sign and add this extra parameter or a function, and it will give you this one glance look of year-wise distribution of whatever you're trying to visualize. So that is when these kinds of graphs come really handy. Last, we come to the last part of the segment, that is making meaningful visualizations. And when I say this, this is actually the most important part of the segment, because like I said, there are a lot of libraries, a lot of tutorials that you can use to make visualizations, but the key is understanding why do I have to make this visualization, or what this visualization is trying to tell me. So I've listed a couple of questions here that you can ask yourself while you're building a visualization, so that you have clarity of what story you are trying to tell. So the first one is, what is the right chart type for me? This was already covered by Vidushi, that if we have values, we go for pie charts. If we have other things, proportions, we go for pie, donut, and waffles, which we covered here. If we have distributions, we go for histograms, box plots, scatter plots, etc. So this question should be pretty clear for most of you right now, and whatever charts we missed out, you can obviously go back and look into them. But this question should be very clear based on the data that you receive. If what the data is trying to tell you, and what kind of visualization would be the best fit. The next question is avoiding deceptive charting. So we'll discuss this in the next slide. What do I exactly mean by deceptive charting, and how to make color theory work in favor for you? So for example, color theory, we have all these apps. We have Facebook, it has blue color, it gives us this vibe. So basically, color theory associates colors with emotions. Just like we have this very layman way of saying red is associated with love, green is associated with jealousy. Similarly, we intuitively perceive colors to tell us a certain thing. So, red basically tells you power, purple goes for royalty, green goes for luck or even envy. So, things like that actually kind of influence the way you think. So, as an analyst or as a data scientist, even if you're making visualizations and these visualizations are being presented to a wider group of audience, the colors that you use will not actually overturn the verdict of your visualization, but it will actually give a kind of support to the story that you're trying to tell. So, for example, if you're presenting increase in sales, we use green. If you're predicting decrease in sales, we use red. Red is the danger or the problematic part of the color that it's trying to tell us. So that is why color theory actually is pretty important. Next, we have how to build charts with high readability. So my chart should not just make sense to me. It should make sense to anyone trying to read my visualization on my chart. This was also covered by Vidushi really well. So adding axes, adding legends, adding proper titles are really important to your graphs, because you're not the only one who's going to be reading them. So having a graph that is intuitive, understandable, readable, accessible is very important. And how to bring in 3D charting solutions. So 3D charting solutions are nothing but visualizing your data in 3D. Sometimes data might not be good enough to be visualized in a 2D form. So that is when we go for 3D graphs, or we go for D3JS. So there are a lot of other libraries that you can use in R and Python both to make 3D solutions. And how to get creative with your visualizations. So a visualization should not be boring, just like all our talks. We should be actually able to entice your interest in what we're trying to talk about. So creativity with visualizations are really important, just like the Meryl Streep graph that I showed you. Automatically, even if I don't understand data science, if I don't understand data, and I just like Meryl Streep, or if I just like movies in general, I will be excited to look into that graph. Oh, what is this graph trying to tell me? So I'm not saying use those in your business meetings, but in general, try to keep your visualizations creative. So deceptive charting, really important. As you can see over here, this is a really good example that the axes have been flipped and the data is actually showing something that it's not true. So it's showing an increase in crime, whereas there is a decrease in crime based on time. So this is one really bad example of how charts can be used to manipulate the larger public. You should never do that, and this is very common flipping of axes, using different types of colors, not giving in enough information in your graph. Data can be manipulated, your graph can be manipulated to suit your need. So always be careful of not falling a victim to deceptive charting and manipulating proportions as well. So this is just a tweet that we have in our lesson embedded as well, that the height of women has been classified as, Indian women are apparently very short compared to women from Australia, Scotland or South Africa. I agree they might be short, but the proportion that has been visualized in this visualization is highly incorrect. And again, looking at it at one glance and from someone's perspective who is not a data scientist or has zero knowledge about these things, they'll just be like, oh my god, are we really that short compared to Australian women or Scottish women, right? So this is something, again, manipulation of graphs is real, and we should try to consciously not go into that bias and make visualizations that are inclusive, true to our knowledge, and accurate. And this is a small quick guide for the first question that I asked is, what kind of chart do I need? So trends over time, go for line data, line charts, dual line charts, comparing categories, bar pie, comparing totals, pie stack, showing relationships, scatter line, facet, and dual line. These are all the graphs that we covered in this small discussion that we had over visualizations. And before I conclude, I would like to share two really fun resources with you that you guys can explore just for the sake of it, because they're really fun and they actually automate the code part of data visualization. One is Charticulator, which actually gives you this UI where you can just import your data and start working with it and make plots, whatever you want, even make dynamic plots that you can embed into your web interfaces and web apps. And then there is SQZNR. SQZNR is actually an entire package by R itself. So it is freely available on the CRAN R repository. You can download it to your workspace, import the data in SQZ. It will make any plot that you desire. You just have to drag and drop, and it will also generate a code that you can use. So these two resources are really fun, and as a beginner, you might feel more confident using these instead of just being bombarded with lines and lines of code. But yes, both ways are actually important. You need to also understand the parameters that we are passing to make the said visualizations, because they all have a role to play. So that was my time. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session. And Vidushi and I really had fun designing these lessons for beginners, like just like us, while we were starting out. And we hope it will help you. And feel free to reach out to me for any work-related queries or data science questions. You can find me on Twitter with the same username, Justine101010. And yeah, hope to see you really soon.
Thanks, Justine. That was very, very informative and very. I love the visualizations that are there in your PP. I'll
Thanks,
just take
Vidushi.
2 minutes to answer the
Yeah,
questions that are there in the chat. So I
absolutely.
think there was someone who asked if we could do visualizations in Python if we don't
Mm-hmm.
want to use R, and how R is best in terms of data visualization. So
Mm-hmm.
again, as we rightly mentioned at the beginning of the lesson itself, that you can use Python or R depending upon your use case. And this curriculum is actually predominantly present in Python, which is now being replicated in R as well. So there are pros and cons of every using every kind of a language or every kind of a platform. And in this case, we chose. I mean, you can choose R for its pros, that are it's very accessible for a user. And in case if you're building an application which does have a backend or a front end, so you might need data analytics service to pick up visualizations and make sense out of it. And to do that, R is the best, which is a big pro of R, and which is not so for Python you might need multiple lines of code. But as Jasleen also mentioned, that in R there are multiple inbuilt functions which you can just use. So these are a few pros of R. But again, depending upon your use case, if you have like a less data, you can go ahead with Python. But if you have vast data, it's kind of preferred to go with R because it has a lesser time and space complexity. So again, you can choose your use case, you can choose the language you like, you can go through their syntaxes, whatever interest, you can go ahead. And for people who would have difficulty in understanding either the accent or do not have access to captions, we have displayed the challenge, cloud skill challenge, and also the link to the GitHub repo. You can go ahead, read it in your free time, always do the quizzes, and then get back to us if in case you have any doubts. We'll be happy to help you. Are there any more doubts in the audience or on the in the online audience? Thanks, Black Ronin, for if this was helpful and you're trying to break into data science. For anyone who's trying to step into data science or want to be a data scientist, these are the few things which you just keep refreshing, and they're going to help you to be a better storyteller with your data. It's just storytelling with numbers. So, Vivek, are there any doubts in the audience? I think that should be it because I can't see Vivek on the screen yet.
I can
Aniket,
see
are
him
there
as the host. Yeah, I can see him as the host.
Yeah, I think he might not be there in the hall, but if Aniket is there, if there are any doubts, we could clear them up. If not, we can go off screen.
Not there, that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Vivek, we can.
Perfect, perfect. So there is no questions, I believe, from here. Any questions? You understood
Can we
everything?
ask you questions then?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm going to ask questions now.
Would they like a waffle chart or a pie chart?
The
Okay,
waffle for me, please.
perfect. So, thanks, sir. And thanks for delivering this session, and thank you very much being there. And for online audience, thank you very much for attending the MS Dev Day. If you have any questions, please reach out to the speakers, whoever, you can find them. If you go to the meetup.com, you can find their details. Just go there and, chat with them. And yeah, I'm closing this session now. Online audience, I'm closing this session for you. If you have questions, just reach out to the speakers.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you for
Vivek.
attending. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having us. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, everyone.